Red Sparrow is a new spy thriller or thriller, I guess, in quotation marks. It's not really a thriller. It's kind of a drama that has thrilling parts in it. It stars Jennifer Lawrence, Joel Edgerton, Jeremy Irons shows up for a little bit in this movie. It's directed by Francis Lawrence, I think is his name. It's based off of a book, and no, I have not read it. Before you ask, no, I have not read the book. So once again, this is yet another movie that is having an adaptation of a book that I have not yet read. Jennifer Lawrence stars as a prima ballerina. She's a really good dancer. She's one of the best in the world. Then there's a really freakish accident that happens to her. Think like Paul George in the summer from a few years ago when he broke his leg on that thing that sits out of bounds during USA basketball. Yeah, it's pretty much like that. She breaks her leg, she has a really bad career-ending injury, and then she gets recruited by her uncle and some other government people into the government where she becomes a Red Sparrow. Basically, a horror agent. That's what they are. They're spies. They're able to manipulate and infiltrate and do whatever the hell they want, and they're able to make other people do whatever the hell they want because they use sex to get what they want. So they use the power of the pussy to obtain the objective. This movie definitely had some parts where it almost hooked me and it almost engaged me and almost had me like, oh, you know what? This might be one of the good ones. Starting with the performances, Jennifer Lawrence, I know that she's a very polarizing actress. I know that there's a lot of people out there that got a lot of hate for her. Some people that still kind of like her, and most people that think that she's overrated nowadays. I personally think that she's a good actress if she's committed, and if you give her something to work with, she can be really good. In this movie, she's very committed. She commits very hard to this role. Her role is a very uncomfortable role. A lot of people in this movie, the Sparrow, they're put into situations that are very uncomfortable. They're put into some very awkward sexual situations where they have to do something that most people would not be comfortable doing. So Jennifer Lawrence, I think, showed some really good courage in this role. And hey, if this leads to more naked Jennifer Lawrence in the future, then hey, I'm all for it. I mean, yeah, she spends like a quarter or about 30% of this movie naked or taking clothes off, so that's not bad. To Joel Edgerton is one of those underrated actors who usually does a good job in whatever movie he's in. He plays a CIA agent who becomes intertwined and entangled in Jennifer Lawrence as a Red Sparrow as she's trying to uncover something for her government, and he's trying to uncover something for his government, and so their paths collide and they fuck. You see that in the trailer. It's not a spoiler. Jeremy Irons, like I said, he's not really in the movie all that much, but when he does show up in the movie, he's Jeremy Irons. You know what you're going to get from Jeremy Irons. This film had definite moments of darkness and raw intensity that makes you feel like, okay, you're headed towards something better. Like, you ever get to a point in a movie where you're just kind of like, okay, things are building, and then the music's good, and then you get to a really intense part where you're like, oh shit, that shit got in my chest a little bit. Multiple moments like that throughout this movie where you're just gearing up because you know that the movie is building towards something special. The movie does have special things about it. Like I said, the performances, it also has good cinematography. It's got a very sleek, clean, pristine look about it, and I always appreciate that when I look at films and the way they're shot. Parts of this movie will grab you. The intrigue, the mystery of her being a sparrow and her having to use all of these skills and tricks and things that she learns at this Russian academy to try to infiltrate and spy. It's basically Spy 101. That's what this movie is. That's really all this movie is. This movie is really just a lot of build-up that builds to something that really isn't all that good. It's not enough for me to say that the pacing of this movie drags a little bit or that the movie itself is a little bit boring without explaining what I mean. What I mean when I say that this movie is kind of boring is that the scenes that are in the movie, they feel like they drag on for way too long. Like, there's a lot of scenes in this movie where they don't let things transition smoothly. You have a scene that feels like it should be a little bit shorter, but instead they drag it out and they make it longer. Why? I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure why that happened, but that's the direction the director wanted to go in. And then you'll have other scenes that feel like they should be longer, but then they feel like they're cut short. And so I just feel like the transition between the scenes and the overall pacing within the scenes themselves is a little bit sloppy. As a result, you have a movie that's 2 hours and 20 minutes, and it feels like it's even longer than that. After like the first 30 minutes to 40 minutes, like, I was kind of hooked for the first half of this movie. At a certain point, things just kind of started getting bogged down. There's these subplots that pop up that don't really do anything for me, and it starts to make the entire story feel a little bit convoluted. There is a nice twist at the end of the movie, but that's after like the third or fourth or fifth ending that this movie has. This movie looks good. It's got good performances. It's got a little bit of spy intrigue, and Jennifer Lawrence is really hot when she's naked. I mean, You knew all of that going into the movie. Pacing is kind of a drag. The movie itself is kind of a drag. The subplots, it gets a little bit too convoluted. And I can't highly recommend this movie, even though I don't really think it's all that bad. Red Sparrow, I will give my average rating. I will put it in the Fortress of Solitude. That's my review for Red Sparrow. I will have a review for Death Wish. I'll also have a review for A Wrinkle in Time. I'm going to be seeing that later on today. Please like and subscribe to the Superfan Show. And as always, if you like what you see, tell me how you feel and stay tuned to hear more from the Man of Steel. Peace!